Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Midlife Unfiltered. I am Donna, and this is my co-host, Nick.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Well, today we're sitting down with author Tracy Thompson. He developed the love for writing at a very young age when he picked up a book and was like, they're all the same. We all know what happens in a love story. We all know what happens in a superhero book. And he decided he wanted to start writing his own book when he was in third grade. But it was the Stephen King book, Cujo, that made him become the author he is today. Welcome, Tracy. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you, ladies. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you. For sure.
Love a good book. So why don't you tell us about who you are and how I know I gave just a little bit about the third grade in writing, but tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, that third grade writing was just awful. Like kudos to my teacher for encouraging me to continue writing because it was just god awful bad. But the thing that really stuck with me from there was it was even in third grade, it was really dark, right? A lot of people dying for no reason. They were dead.
Okay.
And that is carried forward into how I write now. I love dark stories. I don't like happy endings. I like crazy characters. I like a good anti-hero. And I have really clung to that in my writing. I enjoy challenging myself with different genres and different writing styles and different types of characters, but they all carry that underlying dark tone to them.
And does that kind of separate your like real life and fictional writing life? Like, do you write like that because you enjoy it, but it doesn't really push into the real life?
Well, I mean, I'm very sarcastic and cynical, and I have a very dark sense of humor, but my life isn't dark. I have a good life. I can't complain about that. So, the experiences that I'm drawing from to put into the books, most of it, I just kind of have to create in my head and take what I've seen in other media and tweak it for what I want, what I like, and what's going to fit into my story and run with it from there.
Nice.
So I know you said that Stephen King's book was what got you into writing, but obviously I know you weren't reading that in third grade. So what in the third grade, because getting my children to write at third grade was like Helen Wills, like, please write, practice your writing. What, obviously you loved writing and you're like, I want to write a book. What was it that got you that wanted to do that?
That is a fantastic question. I think I just liked the creative process and reading different types of books and saying this came completely from the author's mind, right? I want to be able to do that, and I want to be able to create something like that and have it be under my control and under, my parameters for what I like and what I enjoy. What I think is funny about that, if you jump to now, I don't actually consider the stories to be under my control. I have a storyline idea, I have a beginning, I have an ending, and then I just start writing and I put the characters in scenarios and see what happens. And then when it's done there, it's like, well, what's the next logical scenario that they would be in? Then they move on to that. So I don't even have that control. It just happens. And I love that so much because, I mean, when I write a book, I'm writing it for myself. I'm hoping other people will like it, but I'm writing the story for myself. I'm writing it so I'll enjoy it, which is why you get the dark stories, the dark sense of humor, the atypical endings.
So you're writing the book because you know that it's like you have all the thoughts in your mind, you're putting it on a piece of paper and it's entertaining. And as you're writing, you're going and going and going. And at the end of the day, you're like, if they like it, they like it. But it's, are all authors, do you think they're that way? They're writing it because they know they find it's really for them and hoping that a reader will pick up their book and like it?
I doubt it. I mean, I would hope that as an author's writing that they do enjoy what they're writing, but I'm sure that there's a lot of them out there because, I mean, let's face it, that's how they make a living.
Yeah.
They're writing for an audience because they know what they like and they know it's going to sell books.
True.
Interesting because I wrote a little book. It's not out there, but it's just for my neighbor kids and my kids. Because when they were younger, they were hysterical. Like, I have chickens, and they would the stories of the youngest one. Her imagination still to this day is phenomenal. I love it. But I just decided I wanted to take all their little stories and everything that they were doing and put it in a little itty bitty book. And I gave it to them. They think it's the funniest thing ever. I mean, they're, middle school and elementary school still. And then give it to somebody else. They're like, yeah, it's kind of cute. I'm like, yeah, you don't get it. I'm like, but her mom gets it. And they think it's fun. But because I just put it on there because I wanted to capture and remember all of their little funny stories and whatever Not in why. Always involved somewhere somehow my chickens and the birds. Don't ask me how or why. It's like there'd be flocks. There would be eagle. They would have their Nerf guns out there, like, we're gonna shoot them. I'm like, okay. And it was just, and then there were the imaginary crocodiles would show up, or I added them all in. I'm like, this is entertaining. And that's kind of what I did. I just was like, I need to put all whatever they're doing onto a piece of paper because they were always at my house. And so I always would tell their mom what they would say, and she think it would be funny, but she never really got the full entertaining of it until after I put it into a book and handed it to her. And now she thinks it's the funniest thing ever.
You know what the worst book to receive is? A baby book. And it has all of your stats, and he did this and he did that and blah, 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 blah. It's nonfiction garbage about yourself that you don't care about. When you take those stories like that, though, and you put them into a little book in an entertaining fashion and you give it to them, they get to laugh about it. When you give it to them, they get to laugh about it with their friends later, with their spouses, then with their kids. So what you did is fantastic. My mom gave me my baby book, and I hope to God she doesn't listen to this, but I'm pretty sure I threw it away within a month just because it was taking up space and I don't care.
I love it. Love it.
Yeah, there's no point. Anything important here?
No. When you were 1 year old, you weighed 15 pounds, and you need to remember that.
Yeah. Yep. He took his steps at this date. Who cares? I'm walking now. That's what I care about.
Can safely say I did not do a baby book. I tried, but I was not good at remembering to write things down or to do this. So it's just up here when the kids ask, Mom, how old was I when I started walking? I'm like, 10 months old. You were 1 week after you turned up. Oh, okay, thanks.
Or make it up. They don't know.
I'm literally also like, okay, thank you. That's literally what I tell them. Like, you want to know? It's right here in my brain. Yeah. I'll give it to you if you want it. But yeah, no.
My mother did an extensive one on me. And my sisters, when you open it, it just has her name.
Name, date of birth, and I'll get to the rest later.
So funny.
Because she probably did that before she was born. I'm going to be ready.
I'm having it. And that was it. You open it, it's all empty.
Yeah. I don't think my mom did one for my siblings just because she was too busy at that point.
Yeah. You get busy. It's life.
We love the kids. We do. It's just, but kudos to the people that really do it, honestly. The ones that do it,
of course.
We're not knocking you for it.
They're not.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. So back to your, so how old were you when you picked up the Stephen King book that got your mind going, this is where I want to go? Why was it Stephen King? Were you reading other books of different authors, different genres, niches? What was it that set off that one?
So I'd been reading, the boring kids' books. And, they all have happy endings and everybody works together and there's a nice lesson to learn if you want to sit and think about it. And I think my mom had bought my dad the book Christine by Stephen King, and it was sitting on his dresser forever. And every time I walked in the room, I'd pick it up. And I'd be like, this looks so awesome. And I kept thinking, I want to read his books. I want to read his books. And my mom would go on about, how she doesn't like him because he's too gory or he's too morbid and all of this. And I'm just like, okay, that's exactly what I want to read, tee me up. So when I was in middle school, I think I just went to the library and grabbed it. And I sat down and I read it. And I was just like, this is the best thing ever. And I started just gobbling up more and more of his material because it's all right up my alley. And I'm going to admit it. I got a little, focused on that. Yeah. And I do have a hard time branching out sometimes. One of the benefits of having anxiety, you don't want to try new things, even when it's books. But I love fantasy books too. So all the Christopher Paolini books. I haven't finished that whole series. I didn't even know there was a couple more out until recently. But I like his books, George R.R. Martin. I'm working my way through Wheel of Time right now.
Nice.
Those are all fantastic. There's the Fate Breaker series, I think. I can't remember her name who wrote that, but I really enjoy those types of books too.
So when did you start thinking okay, I really need to write my own and I need to keep going?
So I had my kids really young. And as you heard earlier, they're stair-stepped. They're real close together. So I didn't have a lot of time in my young adulthood. And then as they got older, I had some free time come up. And I never was like, I need to write a book. I always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to write a book, but just every once in a while I'd write something down and it wouldn't go anywhere. Whatever. That happens. One day my daughter told me, like, oh, when I was young and we lived in this house, I tried to pry off one of those outlet covers, the safety plugs, because I wanted to like stick something in there and see what it was all about. And I was like, but that got an idea going in my head. Well, like, what if that jump started her brain and then she became super smart and got telekinetic power? And it just like, I had a huge idea in my head and my head felt like it was going to explode. So I just sat down and I started writing, no outline, no idea what I was doing. Just I wrote until it was done and was just super happy. And that one is the one with the crazy characters and like crazy stuff happens. And but it's just fun and it's full of dark humor. And then when you get to the end, it's my God, did that just happen type ending, which is perfect for me.
That's wonderful books that I can read. So for me, when I read a book, if it doesn't capture me in the first 5 or 6 pages, and I know this is terrible, so if you're an author, I apologize, but this is just how I work. If it does not capture me in the first 5 or 6, and I will even go to as far as the first end of the first chapter, it's gone. I need it. Literally, I need it to capture me. I need to bring me in. I need to be able to curl up on the couch with my coffee and a blanket and read it. And if I can't, it's gone. And I have done that where there is a few books that I was like all excited to read, and I've read the reviews or people, and I'm like I really wanted to. But I've also read a few books like you were just talking about where you're reading it and I think, oh, I know what's going to happen. I get to the end, I'm like, that's actually kind of cool. I never thought that. I never saw that coming. I'm like, I love that.
I've had people cuss me out over the ending to the mark. Like, I can't believe you did that.
I don't want to Hallmark.
And that's perfect. That's what I want.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay once in a while to have a Hallmark book, but I don't want every single book to be that. I want it to be suspenseful. I want it to be, this or that, or maybe a little bit of everything. And then the ending, you'd be like, oh, okay, yes.
And I don't think a book is suspenseful if you know where it's going.
Yes.
Right?
That's true.
Right.
So yeah, that to me just ruins all the suspense in it, and I don't want to read it anymore. I agree with you. And it's funny what you said about having to have a book grab you like right off the bat.
I do.
When I wrote The Mark, I didn't have the prologue in it. And I was going to publish it without the prologue, and then I had it beta read, and they were like, it's good, but you need to add something sooner about like why the world is the way that it is and how all of this works. So I wrote the prologue, and I've had so many people tell me that it sucked them in and they couldn't put the book down.
Oh, I love that for you.
Yes, I was so happy that I took the advice and added that in there.
Yeah, I tell my kids, like my son, who's like, should I read this? And I'm like, yeah, you should, because it'll help you then understand what you're about to read. I'm like, if you don't read the prologue, I'm like, you can. Yeah. You don't have to read it, but it's there for a reason.
If you don't want to read about the author or, the other little anecdotes that they might, the acknowledgments or the preface, any of that stuff, fine. You have to read the prologue. That's the story. It's like chapter 1.
Like, it's exactly. It's the understanding. Like, yeah, like I did that one time. I don't remember why, years ago. And I'm like, I am so confused. And I went back to the beginning. I'm like, oh, because I didn't read the prologue. And I went back. I'm like, oh, now I understand. But this was years ago. This is when I had little kids. So, when you have little kids, you're like, get a page in here or there when you can. So I think that's when my kids were little that I was just trying to, I was still in mom brain. I think that's what it was. So, but let's talk about writing. Because my brain always has something like a good story going on there. I have ADHD, so my brain is always like, oh, this story, oh, that story. But then I'm sure there are authors out there that, always have all these stories and putting them out there. So what would you tell maybe a younger person, maybe like you were in 3rd grade, I know they're not going to be listening, but maybe a parent's going to be listening and they see their child doing this. What advice would you give them? Because I know it can be scary to start to write a book and then go, is anybody going to like it? Am I going to be made fun of? Do I put it out there? Or do I just write it and stick it under my bed? I don't want anybody to see it. I don't want anybody to know that I have this talent, which I know they can sit there and use an alias name and then, nobody will ever know.
I would, if I was talking to a parent of a 3rd grader, buy them a notebook, encourage them to write. Encourage them to write as much as they can, read it, and give them positive feedback.
Right.
because if you start giving them negative feedback or correcting things, they're going to get on that path of, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not good at this. When I do write something, people are just going to criticize it. So building in that support system. I am not an everybody deserves a participation trophy award
I
person.
Agree.
However,
Agree.
this is something you really need to encourage and continue to let it to grow. And then once they get to a certain point, you can say, okay, like, how serious are you wanting to be about this? Is this a hobby or is this something you want to pursue? If it's something you want to pursue, now we need to bring in the coach, and we need to get some constructive criticism in there. Yeah. If I was talking to just another adult and you like writing and maybe you want to be a writer, but you're nervous about it, write it for yourself.
Yeah.
Write it for yourself. And if you like it enough and you're confident in it, then you can move towards the next steps. I mean, have it beta read, and don't have anybody beta read it, because they're all going to tell you it's fantastic and they won't give you any good advice. Pay to have someone read it, and they will give you the honest feedback that you need. And I had to ask that. Like, I love my book. My daughter loved my book. One of my friends loved my book. But I'm like, somebody tell me something bad about it. Right. So I decided to throw some money at it to have it read and see what, people I don't know thought about it. And it got really good scores. They also tore me apart and hurt my soul. But those were all good things that made it a better manuscript. So yeah, you just have to keep plugging away at it. I mean, when I finished writing The Mark, it was 2020. And I didn't decide to publish it until the end of 25. And that was just because I was so insecure about it and not sure what the next steps were. And I didn't want the query letter rejection chain. So I finally just had to grow up a little bit and put it out there, because I'm not getting any younger. And if this is a dream that I have that I want to pursue and I want to get out of my, a professional job, I have to take the first step towards doing that. And the first step is not keeping it in a desk drawer.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You must have felt very proud to finally take that step too. Also, how did that get to the point where you're like, I got to do this?
It's bittersweet because you personally recognize it's a fantastic book. Whether or not it is, different story. And then you do have people critique it and tell you all the things that need to be changed. And sometimes you agree and sometimes you don't. And then you put it out there and you're like, I'm going to make so many book sales and people are going to love it. And then you just sit there and you watch as like nobody buys it. No matter how much advertising you do, it's like, come on, somebody buy the book. So trying to figure out the marketing aspect of it has really been what's killing me. And it's really kind of crushing that prideful feeling, which is probably for the best, right? I don't want to be super arrogant, but yeah, the marketing is just crushing me right now.
So is this the first actual book that you've had published? This is the first one? Okay.
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about it? Like what
Yes. So in 2030, we have a crazy scientist who thinks that humans are just ruining the world. So he figures out a way to cause everyone to die at 22.
Okay.
And he disseminates that, and everybody in the world who's over 22 just drops dead. And then you have like the world just falls into social chaos, and then you start losing the ability to manufacture things, and you no longer have power plants, and you don't have lawyers, you don't have a court system, just it all implodes on itself. So the story follows the main character, Alexandra, 500 years in the future, after things have started to come back a little bit and you start having different societies, even though they're isolationist, but people are still dying at 22, max 23. She's 25 and no one knows why. And she expects to die at any second because, why am I this old? Everybody else is dead. So she lives her life based on the fact that she really doesn't have any consequences. If I'm going to be dead any second, who cares if I steal somebody's boyfriend for the night, or if I go on a suicide run, or if I am super vocal about something because I believe it's right and nobody else is listening to me. Like, she is just 100% her own person. It has its pros and its cons. In the society, as they age, starting at 21, they get a mark on their hand. It's actually a brand, and it is specific to the community that they're from. And they use that to garner respect and prove their age. So when you get people who have one or two brands or one or two marks and nobody else has them, they tend to be listened to a little more because of their experience. Well, you have Alexandra, who has 5, and everybody considers her to be a freak, and they want nothing to do with her, and
Okay.
they ignore her. And part of that is it's her own attitude problem, and the other part is, like, why has she lived this long? What has she done that is unnatural to keep her living this long?
Right.
And there's just a lot of that stigma that follows her. And she also gets to spend more time with her son than a typical person because she's still alive where other people would be dead by this point. So it throws things on its head for everyone around her, and they don't like her because of that.
Okay.
And then so at the very beginning, she goes on this rescue mission and she comes back, and it wasn't sanctioned by her community. So because of that, they actually exile her. And once she's exiled, she decides that, there was something fishy with that, and she starts investigating it. And she goes to the next nearest community, which is several days away because all your infrastructure's shot. And when she goes to that other community, she goes from like a republic with an elected leader to like a monarchy, and he has all the power, and he's a sadist, right? And he claims to be civilized, and they're going to be the new civilized power. And then later on, she goes to a completely different community where they're 100% democratic, and everybody's opinion matters. It doesn't matter who they are. Everyone votes, and they're super chill. And then you have raider communities, and then you have the scientific communities where everything's based on logic and people's lives don't matter because the end goal is what matters.
Right.
I really tried to play around with different societal structures and government structures just at that point because I could, and it was fun. And I didn't want it to be the same everywhere you went. That's just, that's boring, and it doesn't add anything to the story.
Almost reminds me of like a sci-fi movie. Like, you don't know what's coming next. I think I might actually read this book. See, that might be something that would bring me in. So imagine I'm watching a movie.
Read the prologue, and you will buy it.
Read the prologue first, Nick. Read.
Now, is there a continuation? Like, is there a continuation to this book, like part 2, or it ends, you're done?
No, there's a cliffhanger. And the second book is in my head right now.
Okay.
I don't want to just live in one world in my writing. So, like, the first book takes place in modern day. This book takes place 500 years in the future in a biodystopian post-apocalyptic world.
Okay.
The next book I'm working on right now takes place modern day, but it's in the horror genre, and then it flips to like fantasy horror about halfway through. Yeah, so I'm really trying to challenge myself with the different genres and writing different things. I just feel like as much as I love the world of the Mark and following Alexandra around, I need something different too.
So, question for you.
Go
ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying you need to give your brain like just a little break, go on to something else, and maybe as you're writing your second book, the next plot or however you want to do it for the book number 2 for Alexandria might come to life. You'd be like, oh yeah, here we go.
Yeah, I've had some general thoughts, especially right off the bat about what I wanted it, like where I wanted it to start. And that hasn't changed, but I've had, like, after my wife read it, we talked about it a little bit, and she gave me some of her ideas, which were really parallel to what I'd already been thinking, but it helped me expand on that a little bit.
Right.
So I have a general outline in my mind, at least for the first few chapters. I just need to figure out where it's all going. And that's typically what I do with my writing is I like to figure out the end first and then figure out where it should start and then move it forward.
Right. So now, like, what would you, okay, I guess 2-part question. What would you say to like young listeners or maybe, maybe people that are in their midlife that want to start picking up a pen? So or typing? I dated myself. What is, so now you have book 2 and it's, kind of swirling around in your head. So how do you carve out time for it? Like, how does it start? Like, you go, okay, this week I'm going to type for 5 hours. Like, I'm not sure how that works.
Some people are very disciplined about it.
Mm-hmm.
I am not.
Okay.
Fortunately, with my job, there's a fair amount of downtime at certain days where I can just sit down and turn around and start writing.
Right.
Depending on my mood, sometimes I'll write after work, sometimes I'll write on the weekends, sometimes I won't write for a few weeks just because I just need to get a break from it and I have a bunch of other stuff going on.
Right.
However, I always come back to it and I always know I'm going to come back to it. And even when I'm not writing, it's in my head and I'm constantly thinking about it. That's part of the reason I have to keep writing because I need to get it out of my head.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's like having some type of mental illness that like it's just bouncing around in there. No medication will help. Writing it down is what helps.
And then once it comes out.
I agree with you on that one. So something I didn't say, Donna, was about this. My husband's not originally from this country. He's from Africa. So he always tells stories to the kids about his childhood. And I've been to the village that he grew up in. So I started putting his little stories that he tells us on paper. But like you, I'll write it down. I'll take 3 or 4 days off. I'll come back when I feel like it. So like I'm on middle of chapter 4, and I know I probably went to like maybe chapter 8 or 9. It might take me to the end of the year to get there because it's just, do I have time? And I like the other day I sat down on the computer. I'm like, oh, I'm going to work on it. But I was like, I'm not inspired today. But then the other day, like 2 days ago, I sat down. I was like, oh, I'm inspired, and I wrote 2 pages. But then I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm done for the day. My brain is not. I don't know what to put next. I'm like, I know what I wanted to say, but I couldn't get it on paper how I wanted it to say. So I was like, we're done.
There's some days if I'm actually writing where I'm like, oh, wow, I got 2 pages done. This is a big deal.
Mhm.
And then I think last week over the course of 2.5 days, I wrote 30.
Wow.
I got in the groove and I was like, I want to see how this ends. And just things just kept happening and happening. And then when I got done, I'm like, all right, this is one chapter that's 30 pages. Now I need to go and edit it and make it 2 chapters because this is a little too nuts. But the whole thing is, it doesn't need to be perfect when you get it out. Just get it out and you can tweak it later.
Yeah. I was going to ask you that before, like when you were saying like, oh, it's in my head and kind of stays there until you're ready to take it out. Do you ever like lose the concept and go, oh man, that was really good, but I can't remember it? Or is it?
I have 2 ways of thinking about that. One, I do get a little pissy about it, right? Like that was a really good idea and I wish that I remembered it. I'm terrible about writing things down. I don't want to have a notebook. I don't know why. I think it makes me feel like an old person and I'm already getting there way too fast. But the other thing is, if the idea didn't stick with me, it wasn't good enough for me to want to write about.
Yeah.
That's the mentality that I'm trying to think. Otherwise, I would be mad all the time because my memory is terrible. But when I do get those ideas that stick and they finally make it out of my fingers into the keyboard, they're usually really, really good.
That's nice. That's good. That's great. Because I know that's not easy I don't think that's easy for anyone to remember.
No.
There's way too much going on in our lives.
Yeah.
And now that I'm forced to do social media to try to like promote myself and do marketing, like that's just sucking up more of my time and having to remember to do that.
Yes, it's a lot.
And then I have my professional job too that I do for 8 hours a day. And that's what pays my bills. So that needs to be priority. Yeah. So sometimes it's just not going to happen remembering those things.
Are any of your children writers, or do they like not necessarily writers as in a book, but do they maybe have the imagination like you do to maybe whether it's maybe writing or acting or whatever?
I'd say my youngest daughter probably.
Okay.
I couldn't see her being a writer. She loves reading. She loves reading fan fiction. She was in theater in high school. I feel like she has like half the mind for it.
Okay.
But she's also an engineer, so there's way too much analytics going on, and that wouldn't meet this, and the physics, and blah, blah, blah. You know what? It's a fictional book. The physics don't always work.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
you have to go with it.
You have to bend it
Yeah.
in order to get it to work. It just needs to sound like it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think I'm a little too analytical myself, so it would be hard to not have all the pieces connect. Even when I read a book, like I'm reading a book now and rom-com, that's my jam. It's especially this time of year. I'm like, oh, this is the best. And there was a twist and I'm like, did not sign up for a twist. I signed up for a regular rom-com book and now it's going to happen.
I drive my wife nuts because even though I love like these fantasy worlds, the worlds still need to have rules, and all the rules apply to everybody, right? So say you have a zombie apocalypse and the rule is zombies die when they get shot in the head.
Right.
And then you have a zombie that gets shot in the head and they're not dead. I will lose my mind over that. Lose my mind. And my wife's like, you realize this isn't real. It's like, doesn't matter, doesn't follow the rules.
It's not the rule.
Yes. So even if your rules like aren't real, they don't apply to physics or whatever, real life, they have to be consistent throughout the book. Otherwise you'll lose me.
Yeah, me
I'll
too.
probably throw your book across the room like out of anger. It just makes me so mad.
I was mad with this twist. I was like, and there's a movie too. So I finished reading the books. I can watch the movie.
Oh, the ending of the movie will probably be completely different.
It probably will.
I have to decide between the two. If I read the book, I am not watching the movie because I know for a fact they're going to be similar. But I know in a movie, they have to add a lot more than what's in the book, because if they did the book, the movie itself would be 10 minutes long. So I can't do both. I can't do both.
My wife almost shut me down when we started watching Game of Thrones because even the first 2 episodes, I was like, that's not what happened. Listen, she's like, you're ruining this for me because you're just getting so irritated. It's what happened here. So just suck it up. And
it's funny that you said that, because a really good family friend of ours, he's no longer, he passed away, but he was a former Secret Service agent. And I remember watching White House Down. I don't know if you ever watched it or not. Good movie. And his wife says she had to watch it without him because he goes, they really can't reach the White House like that. They really can't do that. And obviously that's true, what he was talking about. But I mean,
it was a show.
But it was a show. I mean, I can't say everything is not possible, but we hope to God it never happens. But the movie itself was amazing. But she goes, I can't watch movies with him like that. And he's like, what you talking about? And I'm like, and I tell him, he's like, oh yeah,
what do we want to tell them how to really do it? No.
Right.
So you have to do it in simpler ways.
Yeah,
exactly. And lead them on.
He's just like, no, you're going to ruin it for me. He's like, yeah, but you can't. She's like, I understand, but don't ruin it for me. I loved him. He was a sweetheart, but he was in his 80s and he ended up getting dementia. But he was funny. He was like, I'm like, if you don't go away, like,
sure.
He'd be like, what you mean? What movie you watch this time? No, go away. That's so funny. So you mentioned before we were live that you have an OG book that you have not published, and you may or may not publish it. You want to talk a little bit about when did you start writing it? What was your process on it? And maybe why you didn't why you haven't published it? Maybe just to help other people who are out there who are starting to write for the first time and they're not sure. Maybe they have the same questions in their head and they're not sure. They're like, I don't know anybody to ask. I don't know anybody that's been in the same situation. And maybe you can kind of,
So you're going to hear about my naivety and my ignorance into the whole publishing world. But the story that I told you about my daughter trying to pry off the electrical cover, that was where I got the idea for the very first book that hasn't been published. In the process for that was literally, I need to get this out of my head. And I wrote it and it just progressed into the next scene, into the next scene, into the next scene until I was done. So that was actually pretty straightforward and probably easier than it should have been. Once I was done with it, I had it professionally edited. And then I started the query letter process. And that's like having your soul ripped out of your body and stepped on and then lit on fire. That's rough. You have to be ready for all of that rejection. And I think I got to 75, 100, and I was like, I'm done. I can't take this anymore. So I stopped that whole process towards publishing that.
Okay.
And then I wrote The Mark, and it's definitely a step up. I feel like it's a better product and a better book. Completely different storyline, completely different in how it's written and the types of characters. So I wanted to move forward with that one, 5 years later. But in that one, I had it again, beta read, did some editing, professionally edited, did some more editing, professionally edited again, more editing. And then I hired a marketing company to help get, the website and some articles written about it and some reviews, got on some podcasts, and I'm trying to spread the word about it there. So it's just completely different progression from that one to this one. Do I want to get the first one published? Yes, I would actually love to do that in the next few months.
Okay.
I'm trying to have it edited again because I've made a fair amount of changes to it since it was originally edited. But my wife is balking on having it published because she thinks it may not be looked well upon because of how outlandish some of the characters are and how they react to things and how they treat each other. And I'm just like, don't care. But we'll see who actually wins because, she has a little more say in it than I do because I'm super biased where she is looking at it from outside.
I mean, would it be something that you could tweak? Is her opinion
No, it's either acceptable or it's not because the entire book is like that.
Got it.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Have you given it to maybe another outside source that I don't know, like maybe a family member that you're like, can you just tell me what your thoughts are on it? And I remember when my kids were in Boy Scouts and one of the moms had written a book and she asked the kids, she's like, who would want to read this for me? It was a thick book. And she's like, come at me. She's like, I don't care. And they came at her and she was like, she wasn't even hurt. She was like, thank you. And she ended up moving away, but she was just like, she had no, they were in the military. They were in the military. Her husband was in the military. So they got
it's not related. Just sounded really funny.
Okay. But she ended up they ended up getting transferred, but she took all of that information very well. I remember she took it all home and she came back and started like the next week and she's like, thank you. She's like, I didn't think about any of this and she said a lot because I didn't see what was written, but she said a lot of the kids that came to her all had the same idea or the same thought process, but maybe some of it just a little bit different. And she's like, I'm taking it. She's like, I'm going to take it and I'm going to run with it. So I don't know if I'm assuming it's been published since then, but yeah. So she put her book, her manuscript in the hands of middle school and high schoolers.
That's very brave.
It was very brave.
You have to be able to take that feedback and that criticism because if you publish it and then you put it out there, not everybody's going to like it, and plenty of those people who don't like it are going to have opinions. So you're going to hear about it. It's better to hear about it ahead of time if it is something you want to fix than hear about it later when you can't fix it without doing a complete overhaul. And then it just looks like, what the heck is this person doing?
Yes.
But to answer your original question, I very recently gave it to someone I just met, and I'm hoping to get some very honest feedback about, no, this is like not going to fly with the general public, or I think this would work, move forward, or somewhere in between.
Whew, that's definitely, I think I would be terrified. I would be terrified, but because I'm always like, what are they going to say? Are they going to like it? Are they going to hate me? Where do I go from there? So I'm always very, but at the same time, like you said, it's got to get out there because, it makes you better. It makes you a better writer. And I was who was I telling this to? One of my kids, there was an actress, I don't remember her name now, how they always told her she would be nothing, 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 but she didn't give up. And she won her first award after like 15 years. I don't remember who it was though, but she's like, I didn't give up. So,
and if it's something you really love and you want to succeed at, like hardly anybody is successful right out of the gate. Are there those people? Yes, there are. And I hate them. But, most people actually have to work towards it.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to be successful at something like writing. There are so many writers out there. The market is super diluted, especially when you have like Amazon books. I mean, that's where mine's published, but anyone can publish there.
Yeah.
And it causes, good books to be harder to access because there's other books out there that are taking forefront, or, there's paid marketing for those.
Yeah.
So, and there's so many fine, like little details and little levers you have to pull and manipulate in order to have better rankings. I can't figure it out. It's so complicated.
Yeah.
And my marketing budget's shot, and my wife's like, I'm not giving you another $1. You've already spent too much. And all of these people that want to help, it's thousands of dollars to help you. So I'm in that weird transition spot where like I have something and I know it can go forward, but I'm I'm running out of steam to try to get it to the point where it'll just move on its own.
Right.
Yeah. Well, don't give up.
You'll get there. You'll get there.
Don't give up. I want to be able to say, I had him on my podcast.
I hope you can say, I read his book and I liked it.
Yes. Well, yeah. Speaking of that, I will put all of your links to whatever you have. Just send them to me and I will put them in all the descriptions below. That way we get people to read them. Your book, The Mark, is on Amazon.
Yep. When you look it up, it's The Mark by T.A. Thompson.
Okay.
There is another Mark out there, and it's part of some other series, and that is not my book.
Okay. I will make sure that I link
the right link. Yeah.
And then do you have a website?
Yes, it is tathompsonwriter.com. I'm also on Facebook, and that is, what is that? T.A.Thompson. And then Instagram is T.A.Thompsonwriter. I throw out a literary question of the day every day. Some of them are good. Some of them are just, but I love getting the feedback and I love interacting with people. So if anybody wants to jump on there and throw in some comments, I would love to have a conversation.
Love it.
Nice. So, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. So do you have one last piece of advice you could give maybe an up and coming author, like maybe a child or a teenager or maybe a young adult?
Yeah, keep writing and know that when you're done writing, that is not the end of the process. The hard part's just begun.
Right.
But it's manageable and you can get through it, and it doesn't hurt to ask for help.
Love that. Thank you so much. Everybody, I will make sure all of his book and all of his social medias and his website is posted below. Thank you guys. And again, like you said, if your story's in your mind, put it on your paper. Don't be afraid for the criticism that you could potentially get. Take it as stepping forward more. Thank you so much.
Thank you.